Hello, I'm Bodine Sanders, your producer and host. I created Blueprints to discuss the positive perspective of diversity, equity, and inclusion and the DEI Foundation. We invite leaders, community leaders, folks from different industries to get their perspective on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we do that to help you, the viewers. Today, we're going to welcome an incredible guest. Today's guest is Alim Howell, a community advocate and activist for a great organization, a 501c3 nonprofit called Race for Peace. Alim, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Mr.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Well, listen, Mr. Sanders is my dad. Please call me Bodine. How you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Well, listen, we're happy to have you because of your father's organization and you being a member of that organization. But I want to start with your opening statement that I found doing my research for Race for Peace. And it's communication, understanding, and trust are forged during times of peace, not conflict and stress. I like that statement. So what I normally do is ask my guests, the very first question I ask all of them is, give me your perspective, positive perspective on diversity, equity, and inclusion from your perspective of being a nonprofit and the way your organization builds the relationships between community and police.
Race for Peace Committee has diversity, equity, and inclusion in a positive way by bridging the gap between the community and police officers throughout Philadelphia tri-state area and we're trying to get throughout the whole state of Pennsylvania. That's the way we have diversity, equity, and inclusion. More diversity in our police departments and districts can be done, such as more people of color, more women, and equity, meaning having fairness. When the police do something kind of, mainly negative on their job force, trying to avoid that situation, and that's what our committee does as well, is we host events throughout Philadelphia, tri-state area, and we try to create a positive atmosphere with those events. And some of those events were bike tours, fun runs, meet and greets, basketball games, barbecues, and that's what we try to do with Race for Peace Committee in a positive way and in a positive outlook and a positive perspective.
Very, very good. Well, let's talk about the organization and its origin story. Your father, Andrew Howell, is founder and chair of the organization. Let's talk about your dad.
My father founded Race for Peace Committee, and he was the president of the Race for Peace Committee, and now he's just the founder. So he created it, and it was a brilliant idea that my father created Race for Peace Committee. And what he saw in his eyes and his mindset was the Sandra Bland incident back in the 2000, I'm not sure the exact date, but 2016, 15, around that time. And his issue was with Sandra Bland, and then that's why he started Race for Peace Committee from her incident. And I believe, was that in Texas?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
That's why my father started, because of the Sandra Bland story.
Right. And let's talk about all the things that he started and how it's continued.
It's continuing by we're keeping events flowing. So as long as he keeps having events and in the local communities we're in, that's a good thing. And that's how Race for Peace can keep it alive and active. The events that we have to keep it flowing and keep it going. And we would like more people, and a lot of people, to keep coming to events. Sometimes there's less than others because of coronavirus, but now coronavirus is basically over. We're in 2023 now. And as long as the youth and members of the community come out to events, that's how we can keep people interested in Race for Peace and trying to build a positivity with police officers. And that's also how we keep Race for Peace going.
Awesome. Well, I like your mission The mission statement is build a positive relationship with and between the community and law enforcement, or as I like to say as well, public safety, right? Law enforcement tends to sound, as an author, tends to sound a little bit more aggressive, but public safety seems to be more safe, a safe word, but not so aggressive. So I like to throw public safety in there. Let's talk about your role. How are you continuing the legacy as the liaison for the tri-state area, the Delco area, Montgomery County, Chester County, because you guys are everywhere, right?
Correct, yes. Continuing my father's committee, my role is basically promotion. So when we first started out in 2016, my role was to send a lot of emails out to local news stations, Channel 3, Channel 6, Channel 10, 29, newspapers, the Delco Times, the Mainline Times, and the Times Herald. And so all the stations that I named, and then all the newspapers throughout Pennsylvania, basically, and wherever we're having our events,
right, that's
basically what I did, and what my role was, is to promote Race for Peace Committee. And I also, through his direction, my father's direction, he also instructed me to reach out to the politicians. And so any politicians, like you said, throughout Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, the city of Philadelphia, reach out to them and tell them about Race for Peace Committee. So that was my role first starting out in 2016, and I still continue to do that. A lot of the politicians and the news stations know about our organization, like I named CBS, ABC, PHL 17, and NBC, Fox 29. They all know about our organization and the local Pennsylvania newspapers. And now what I do is I just reach out to them when we have an event coming up. Also, I forgot to mention the Delaware Valley Journal. We reach out to local news outlets when we have an event, and then that's basically my role. And what I do is I'm an activist and advocate, because I have separate meetings. In the past, I've had separate meetings with fire departments, police departments, politicians. And that's me being an activist and advocate. I write a lot of letters to the editors for local newspapers, the Philadelphia Tribune, the Inquirer. So then that's what I've done for activism and advocating. And but really, I'm also kind of like a promoter for Race for Peace. I've been doing a lot of that news outlet promotion. And I have a degree in it also. From I do have my degree in mass media communication. So then I did study that as well. So my writing, sometimes sometimes the comments and stuff when people say, I might not be the best writer. I write kind of just like I'm texting someone, but that's just my style. It's like me and you are talking right now, talking to say Kevin or something like that, just talking regular. That's how I do my letters to the editors.
And just building a relationship. Now you more than likely have built some relationships with some local police officers, chiefs, because your father built those relationships. For example, if folks go to raceforpeace.org, they will see lots of photos, lots of names of townships and local municipalities, of chiefs of police and police officers who believe in what you guys are doing, and they show up at events, right? Talk about some of those relationships. They're positive, right?
Yes, everything is positive. Everything is positive. It's just that sometimes as soon as you say the word police, police officers, everyone's mindset, no matter what color, ethnicity you are, it's always some type of controversy. So Race for Peace Committee stands for positivity. And we promote positivity. All our events are positive. There's nothing negative that comes from our events or anything. And it's a very diverse background for our events and people that come. But, you can't help when you say police, and it comes with negativity and controversy. Some of those people that have been involved with Race for Peace since 2016, and we created positive relationships with, are such as Warren Radner right now, Chris Flanagan, superintendent,
I know Chief Flanagan,
superintendent, no matter what he's going through, Mike McGrath from Lower Merion, and then Narberth, it used to be John Gallagher, and then that's who I met with in person. I had a meeting with Chief John Gallagher from Narberth, also from Bridgeport, Todd Beretta, and Haverford Township, where you're residing, that's John Viola. So then, and we've been creating a lot of, with the chief and the superintendents, we've created a lot of relationships from them. Upper Darby, where I live right now, that's Tim Bernhardt, and Ben Salem, that's, it used to be Fred Haran. Now it's someone different, but yeah, a lot of the superintendents and chiefs were on board with Race for Peace, and they still are. It's just that sometimes you see what stuff is happening nowadays. It's very, very busy. Stuff is very, very busy, it seems like now, especially with the police. And but when we have events, they do show up and they send their officers. So that's good, and they still participate and communicate when they can. And that's some of the relationships we build in a positive perspective.
Well, I like to talk about, in my book that I wrote, Race Against Race, My Journey of Diversity and Inclusion Through Sports, I wrote a topic about my experience dealing with the Philadelphia police. And I put it in the book for a specific reason, because when most people, like you say, when most people initially hear the word police in the African American community, most people, if you tell them, oh, I got pulled over, they will immediately jump to, driving while black. So there was a situation happened when I was a freshman, and we were in Philadelphia driving a rental car. And as people begin to read that topic, there are 42 topics, by the way, in my book. As they're reading that topic, they're probably thinking, oh, these guys, young fellas driving a nice rental car on South Street, got pulled over because they were black. But as you continue to read, the reader finds out that we did not get pulled over for driving while black. We got pulled over for a legitimate reason. The vehicle was reported stolen. So the police was doing their job. And again, the reason I put it in the book is because I wanted folks to start off reading it, think one way, but by the time they finish that third page and finish that particular topic, they go, okay, let me think. Let me take a step back. Let me relax, take a deep breath and go, okay, I now have a different perspective, because they now have all of the information. And all of the information is that the rental car company did report the car stolen. So the police was doing their job. So don't jump on the police in every situation when you don't have what? All of the information, right? So by the time they get to that third page of that particular topic, they go, okay, it wasn't these young student athletes were driving while black. No, they got pulled over because the car was reported stolen. Once we were able to have a conversation about why we were driving the car, how we got the car, who gave us the keys to the car, then it was like, okay, well, we're going to, and listen, I'm here today. Nothing happened bad, right? That was like 35 years ago. So the goal was, again, to get folks to say, hey, let's take a step back. Let's wait for all of the information before you jump to conclusions. That's being fair, right? And police need folks to be fair to them as you would want someone to be fair to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think it's important for us to have these conversations and the police, public safety be involved so we can, continue to build these relationships. It's not easy, right? Building relationship almost with anybody at times can be difficult, but if we work at it, if we work for it, it'll happen. I like the fact that you use a lot of sports to get folks involved. Because again, I am a firm believer in the spiritual foundation and a sports foundation. And when you talk sports, it's a way to bring people together. Obviously, we could talk about any sport, but as you know, I have an affinity for football. You're talking about a group of guys between 100 and 125, depending on how Division 1, 2, or 3 the school is. You're talking about guys coming together for the first time, freshmen, sophomores, when they're building these relationships. They have a common goal, right? And so let's talk about one of the sports activities or organizations, what is called Philadelphia Power Sports Commission.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Philadelphia Power Sports Commission, that is through another nonprofit, and that's the creator and founder of that one is Don Jackson, and he's also the co-founder of Philadelphia Technician Training Institute. It's not about sports per se. That's about the ATV dirt bike riders.
Right.
That's about that.
And that's a sport, right? Dirt bike riding is a sport. It's a different kind of sport. It's a sport that kids who look like you and me may not necessarily gravitate towards, right? We know football, we know basketball, but we're trying to broaden kids' horizons, right, and minds to say, hey, it's not just football, it's not just basketball. Let's talk about NASCAR. Let's talk about motorsports. Let's talk about any other sports. So go ahead.
Yeah, with the ATV dirt bike riders, the way that came about, I think that was kind of through the rapper Meek Mill. He kind of brung that out to Philly with the ATV riders and stuff like that. That's what made it very, very popular, at least for my generation and my age group. Once he started to ride around and promote that as a celebrity, that caught my attention with the ATV dirt bike riders. And that's through Urban Navigation, and that's to Urban Navigation is something to help the ATV dirt bike riders with fixing up their bikes, so how to fix them. And then Mr. Jackson does that all through the Philadelphia Technician Training Institute, and that's how that is came about with the Philly PTTI. And then also to comment on what you were saying earlier about your traffic stop, you were right. That was great. And you're correct. And sometimes that's what's good about police officers wearing the body cameras on their uniform. Police officers wearing body cameras, that's all the evidence and the footage you need. Because sometimes the Pennsylvania State Police and the local departments and stuff, they do make mistakes on their job that's not caught. Only you and that police officer would know that day. You know what I'm saying? Because that's your generation. Only you guys would know. You gentlemen in the car and that police officers or officers that stopped you. But see, now in today's time zone, in the 2020 era, we have those body cameras on police officers. So that gives us all the evidence, all the footage, all the truth, basically. What's the truth? Because sometimes it's hearsay. And all that body camera shows the truth. And then also to go back to the sports, Race for Peace Committee, they have the basketball events at the Darby Barrow Recreation Center, and that's in collaboration with Men of Action Brothers of Faith. That's another organization I told you about. And that's throughout Delaware County, Men of Action Brothers of Faith. And people can find out about that on moabof.com. And Men of Action Brothers of Faith is an organization to mentor young men and women throughout Delaware County and some parts of Philadelphia, and that's ages 9 to 19. And that's really, the sporting events come from Men of Action, really. And Race for Peace does, when they have the basketball events, and my father sets that up, that's with police officers versus citizens. And then Urban Navigation, it's a collaboration. It's everything's all at once. It's like a 3-part event, basically. And that's how that works out with the sports.
Do you find the fire departments get involved as well, or just the police?
The fire department gets involved too. They came to a few of our events early on. Now I just see police officers, because that's what Race for Peace is, but then the fire departments are very much welcome too. Because when I think of the police, I do think of the fire department, and I also think of politics, the 3.
Do you find that the police are taking interest in the kids that are participating in these events?
Yes. Yes, the police do take a lot of interest in the events and also the youth that participate. It's just that sometimes with one event, it can make you in a good mood, you know, after the event and after people leave the event. Oh, that was nice. Those officers were nice, no matter what color and what ethnicity, man, or what gender. It's just they can't change what happens on a day-to-day basis all the time, you know. So, but our events are positive, and they do take a lot of interest in the youth that come. It's just that, especially Philadelphia, you can't, day to day, you know, something might happen, a shooting, a controversial shooting, a negative with the family. It's just, they can't change it all the time, but they can act positive with our events for those few hours.
And I think what happens is folks tend to group one bad action or one bad situation and assume or include all of a police department. And that's just wrong, right? One bad apple doesn't necessarily mean all the apples in the basket are bad, right? And that's why organizations like yours, helping promote positive relationships in the community, right, is a good thing, right? And so I think it's a great thing. I found out about your father's organization and the organization when my book debuted. Someone, and I forget who was the person that referred me to the name of Race for Peace, but someone, and it had to be someone in the police department, referred me, and I took the opportunity to do some research. And the event that was happening like the next day that I couldn't attend because it was happening the next day was some event in King of Prussia. What was that event?
That was the meet and greet.
Okay, and what do you do? Tell me about it.
The meet and greet that we have at the King of Prussia Mall annually, that's something where the police officers from all over, Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, the city of Philadelphia, come out to the King of Prussia Mall in the front, usually in front of the Neiman Marcus store. And they come outside in the front and they just have their business table set up and they just meet and greet consumers and customers that are going into the mall. And that's a big event, and that's a big deal. That's one of our bigger events, the meet and greet, because it has a whole bunch of police departments there at once. We still need to do more summit events where they're more serious, and we talk about some of the police shootings that happen and the controversial things that happen with our Pennsylvania State Police and throughout the Pennsylvania, the more forum events. And that's something where the superintendents and the chiefs and even the Philadelphia commissioner themselves will come out. We had some in 2016, and that was back then. And the Philadelphia commissioner, Ross, he came out back then when he was the commissioner. And then, I think more forum events would make more sense. But
you have panels and
panels and serious conversations. And that's up to my father and him to do that with the police departments, but more forum events. But I understand why he has less controversy, like the sporting events. That's not controversial. It's not a serious, it won't turn into an argument or debate. So I get it. But sometimes more forum events, especially in Philadelphia, need to happen with the Race for Peace Committee.
Well, I see it as folks getting an opportunity to voice their opinion, find information, hear information, factual information, which can change one's belief or behavior or attitude, if you want to say it that way, about the police. Because if you're in a room and you're having these conversations and they're productive conversations, right? I just find it very, it's interesting how people can be distracted, because I think you know as well as I do, a lot of police officers are former athletes, right? They were either athletes in high school, athletes in college, right? They graduated college and their major was criminal justice, right? And they went on to become state troopers or, police officers in a local community. I have easily high school teammates, college former football players that I know of, basketball players that have worked in the FBI, Secret Service, state troopers, all of it, right? In the public safety law enforcement community. And so I think sports is a great way to, especially when you have kids growing up thinking that they only want to become a professional athlete. And we know there's a small percentage of those kids that are going to become a professional athlete. And it's up to us, folks who have the knowledge and the information, to share with those kids and say, hey, listen, there are other opportunities out there that you need to think about, because the chances are you're not going to become that great athlete, that LeBron James, or that, Tim Tebow, or that, let's think of Coco Gauff, who just won the tennis tournament. The chances are you're not going to become that person. So let's provide enough information and opportunities in other industries for the kids. And I think Race for Peace is doing that, right? Am I right?
Yes. Race for Peace is doing that. And we try to put in, like your show, a positive perspective and a positive community outreach. Also, the police officers and departments, they have to do a little bit more community outreach. They already do. It's been since the beginning of time, but just a little bit more community outreach where people need to trust the police, because there's still a vibe, no matter what color, the Latino community, the Black community, even white people, they don't trust the police. Mm-hmm. And even still in today's generation and time zone. So the police have to do a better job of community outreach, and so they can have better trust with citizens they're trying to protect. And Race for Peace does that in a positive way. But the police department themselves, besides a organization partnering up, just themselves, better community outreach from our police officers.
They have to dig deeper. Absolutely. No question about it. Well, listen, we don't have all of the answers. We're just trying to share as much information as possible. Last question. What are you hopeful for in the future regarding what your organization is doing regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion in the community?
More people coming to events, mm-hmm. to simply put it. More people coming to events. Like I just said, just better community outreach from the police departments and officers and districts. And in the future, hopefully there's way less negative outcomes from police officers and troopers and just any law enforcement officer with shootings and arrests, just way less controversial arrests and shootings in the future. That's what I hope for, me personally, because in the news and everywhere in America, the police office, it's so controversial right now in mm-hmm. the time zone we're living in with these police. We can try to be positive, and we are positive, but they themselves have to have less controversial negative shootings and arrests where it doesn't look suspicious and suspect. Mm-hmm. And that's what I hope for the future with our police.
Well, I think if we get more people in the community, like your father who started that organization, folks like you and your colleagues within the nonprofit organization and the committee, more local police and police chiefs getting involved, I think, we can attack that and try to make a positive movement in that direction. So I want to thank you for being my guest today. I appreciate it. We've come to the end of our program. I want to thank Mr. Howell for joining Blueprints today. We look forward to seeing you in the future. Tune in. There are more programs, more interviews to come at Blueprints. Thank you.